going back again to before you're becoming Orthodox, when you're after the issue with the ordination of women in the Church of England, and you said you had a discussion with your family. I was just curious about that discussion. Is this something? How does it go? Is it something? Is it a concerning moment? Is it a in-depth discussion, or is it something that has been going on for years anyway? So it was an easy discussion.
I think the last way is probably the truth. It was a long discussion. It was a long discussion in the Church of England, and of course in the Anglican Communion throughout the world.
Mm.
I waited for a vote on the 11th of November in 1992. I think that's right. That vote was taken by the Church of England General Synod, which is composed of bishops, priests and laity, giving the laity a say in the ordination of women meant that it was making a decision by people who were not trained in theology, who had no experience of doing things like that, but they all had a say in the new discussions and decisions about an article of faith. Who is the church? Who runs the church? Who is in charge of the church? Now, the traditional way for believing it was that the bishops decide the truth in council, and the laity agree with it or don't agree with it, but in the end the bishops make the decision about what is the truth. At least I think that's the right way of putting it. In 1992 they made this decision, and we have been building up for that for a long time. It's connected too with relationships between the Church of England and the Anglican Church and the other Christian communities, such as particularly in particular regard to the Methodists, who were amongst the discussions with Anglicans about reuniting, bringing the two groups together. And the laity had a decision in all of that. And that agrees with modern ways of thinking very often about deciding what truth is. It's a way of democracy, but in fact it's not the way of the church. Never has been the way of the church, that all can make the decisions. The laity have had influence, have always had an influence in theology, and that is right and proper. The bishops don't ignore what the laity think. They are supposed to take note of it, and but it's the bishops who decide the truth about the faith of the church, not the laity. And that vote was coming up, I think, gotten closer and further away, closer and further away for several years. But eventually they decided they would have this vote of the General Synod of the Church of England in 1992, on the 11th of November. And so we waited with great trepidation about it, because of course the experience would be new for the Anglican Church, would have decisions made for it by people who traditionally didn't have that right, and so the church was in a difficult position. Give me a rest.
Yes, yes, I can stop.
The 11th of November, of course, is a particular day in the Christian way, and in the thinking of the English people, because if you remember, it was the day when war ended in 1918. 1918, the end of the First World War, and the French decided they wanted the decision on that date because it was the feast of St. Martin. St. Martin, of course, is our own parish saint, but is the patron saint of France. And the French wanted the decision to be made on that day, and it was decided by the British and the other leading powers at the time that that was to be done. So the 11th of November is a particular date in English, amongst English-speaking people, and that was the date chosen also for the decision about the ordination of women. On the 11th of November 1992, we in the parish of Bocking, where I was, decided we would have prayers about it, and that took place on that day. We had prayers in the morning, we had prayers in the evening, and deciding what would happen. Not many people turned out in church for that occasion, but several did, and we made the decision about to listen to the debate which had been taking place in Parliament, and not in Parliament, in the General Synod. And of course the Parliament also has a decision in things to do with the Church of England. So we experienced this traumatic occasion, and we decided that we would see the workings of God, and some of my people who met, and the decision was taken to ordain women during the day by General Synod, and we took notice of what was going on. The decision, of course, was taken that all women would be ordained, women were being ordained in itself. It's not the only thing. There were lots of things which were going wrong with the Church of England. We felt people who took my position. They decided that the Church of England was making all sorts of decisions about what was going on in the life of the church and how it should work and so on. And we did that. We took notice of what they were deciding, and in my family we discussed it, we prayed about it, and my wife and children and I all decided then not what we would do as a result. We would take 6 weeks, I think, that by Christmas we would make a decision. By the 25th of December 1992, we would make a decision about what we should do about the Church of England and our relationship with it. That was a difficult decision. But my family, my wife and I decided we would be leaving the Church of England, and we would make a decision about the Church of England and our feelings towards it and what we should do. The children were invited to make their own decision. The oldest child was 16, the youngest was 12, and the middle one was 14. And we felt that they were all old enough to make some sort of decision about what they personally wished to do. We decided we would become Orthodox. They decided they would become Orthodox, but it was their decision, not ours, about them. And so we took the decision to become Orthodox, but there was then the decision of how and with whom. We lived by this time in Bocking, near Braintree in Essex, and we had our lives to live, and the children had their education, and we had our responsibilities to the children for what they would do and what we would help them to do about the life of the church. And by Christmas we had made up our decision that we would come to live in Colchester, and that would allow them to stay in their schools, and we would form a new church, new parish, or new mission I should say, with the aid of the Pilgrimage to Orthodoxy and with the help of various friends. We would be living near the monastery of St. John the Baptist in Tiptree, or Tolleshunt Knights, and that would take place sometime in 1994. In 1994, as I've already recounted, a group of clergy forming the Pilgrimage to Orthodoxy were invited to meet the Patriarch of Antioch in Paris when he would be visiting, and his assistant bishop in Europe, and we came to the clergy, went to Paris, met the bishop, the patriarch, and the bishop, and the bishop led, introduced us to the bishop, to the Patriarch Ignatius IV, in his flat in Paris, just near the Orthodox, near the Champs-Élysées in the centre of Paris, and then returned home, having been welcomed. The Patriarch said how we were to be received, and that's what happened. He said that Michael Harper would be the leader, and he would be ordained first with his wife. His wife as a member of the Orthodox Church, and in April 1994, they were received into the Orthodox Church in Paris at St. Etienne Church Cathedral in Paris, and various other Anglican people were received over the next months. In May, my wife and I, Hilary and I, went to Paris, and in April, my wife and I and the children were received into the Orthodox Church in St. George's Cathedral in London, the Antiochian Church in London, by Father Samir, whom I already knew, and he had prepared us for ordination. We were received at the end of the liturgy, and then in May, my wife and I went to Paris, and I was ordained in St. Etienne Cathedral, and without the children being present. They left in England. And then in September, my wife and I, with the children this time, went to Paris, and I was ordained in St. Etienne Cathedral. It was a very, very moving time for us, of course. It brought great encouragement to us, but it made it also difficulties for us. On the whole, we were very well encouraged by our friends, of course, especially other people who were doing it, but friends as well, and relations. And I was delighted to be received well by the people at the monastery. And by this time, of course, Father Sophrony, now Saint Sophrony, had just died. He died in 1993, so we didn't have the pleasure of him encouraging us, but we had great encouragement from the people in the cathedral, in the monastery. Father Kirill, the abbot, and the other clergy and sisters and lay monks. We've had very good relationships with them.
From a secular perspective, I'm just thinking, you're giving up what if we can call it a stable job or a stable income, and you're a family person, you have your responsibilities. Is that not a sort of anxiety or of concern how things are going to be in the future?
Well, we worked it all out very carefully. We had, as I've already told you, the Church of England were very generous in saying that people who resigned from the Church of England on grounds of the ordination of women could be granted a temporary payment until their age 60, I think, and then they could go on to the Church of England pension, which they would have, not the full pension, but the pension which they are proportionate for leaving early, and that's what happened to me. Also, in addition to that, my wife had a pension for, after a certain number of years for her teaching job, which she had done 15 years as a teacher in music in various places, and that also we had a certain amount of money which we had taken out as pensions, which came into operation at different periods. So we had very carefully decided all this before we took the decisions. It was in the light of that we were able to say that we would be looked after by God and His Church and various other societies, not least the Church of England.
Okay. Now, going to the Patriarch's flat in Paris when you're meeting, were they these discussions lengthy discussions? What you have mentioned before, what a few things that happened there, like the welcome and that people would be chrismated, received to church, and eventually they're going to be checked, not investigated, but checked if they're appropriate to be ordained. But was there anything else discussed there? Was the niche discussion?
Well, there was some discussion, but it was largely in form of gossip, really. The decision had been discussed. It wasn't just people here, people throughout the world. Anglicans throughout the world were having difficulties. Most Anglicans throughout the world more became Roman Catholic than became Orthodox. And that was true in Britain. They became Orthodox after long discussions, and many to this day are still on the edge, or some still this day, are still on the edge of becoming Orthodox. They haven't quite made the decision, and it has worked out according to the will of God, and things have worked very well for most people. There have been problems, but on the whole, things have worked very well.
Okay. And then we go into 1995, and first Christmason start to happening, but it sounds like it took over a year since your meeting in Paris, maybe. Or
Yes.
so
Yes.
were there concerns there, like why is it not happening yet, or did you expect that to be like that?
We expected it to be like that. First of all, as I said, Michael Harper was received, and his wife, and then he was ordained priest, and he was made chairman of the group, and in fact they called him dean of the deanery, the Antiochian deanery, and the Bishop Gabriel in Paris was made our bishop on behalf of the patriarch. So the patriarch took the decision, but the thing was handed out to various people, and each priest had to look after his own people. Most priests took some people with them. In my case, I didn't take any of the people who were already talking about it, and we moved to Colchester, and we had several people who were already Orthodox from Anglicans, and several other people who were Orthodox anyway, who from different countries, Greece mostly, and Cyprus, and various other old ones. But right at the beginning we were just a dozen people, I think, in Colchester, and I was reliant on them for their loyalty, which they gave dramatically. We were allowed to have the use of St Paul's Church in Colchester, though that didn't last very long, because unfortunately it was decided the church was in dangerous condition, and it was closed for Anglicans as well as for Orthodox. But we started services in Colchester in February or March 1994. I think I'm getting the dates right. And after we'd been in St Paul's for just a few weeks, we had to leave, as I say, and by the grace of God, we were allowed to take on the use of the Cooperative Funeral Society chapel in Colchester, and we were welcomed by them, and were there for 4 years at the very generous use of their chapel. Gradually that built up, of course, the numbers. We had quite a lot of Greek students in the university at that time, and I made contact with as many of them as I could. Besides that, there were mature students of the university, including several people from the Greek army, and we had good relationships with them, and some of them were married, living with their families here in Colchester for a little while, and they supported us, and it was all very happy. Then in 1998, the co-op decided to pull down their chapel, which was in Mersey Road, just off Mersey Road in Colchester, and they after a while, not immediately, they asked us to leave, and we were very sorry to leave, but again that worked out, and that was in September, I think, and for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we met in a private house. I was a deacon, not a priest, so it was in between May and September. And then in September we were talking with the local authority, I'm sorry, I'm losing my grip a little. Can we stop for a moment?
Yes. Would you like some water or something?
Is there a cup of tea or anything, Hilary, darling?
I'll make some tea if that's what you want.
Please. Would you like a drink?
Just some water, please.
Some water.
Yes.
Cold water, or would you like squash? The icon of St. Helen was done by Nectarios, what's his name?
The student.
He was a student, well, he was like you, he was a master's degree student at first. Stayed with us about two terms or something like that. Not a very long time. But
he was very, very good, and his family have been very generous to us. The things in the church, the processional cross, some of the fans, they gave those, didn't they?
Processional cross, what?
And the fans.
Sorry?
The fans.
Fans, oh yes. They gave us that, them, did they? I've forgotten
Yes.
that.
And it was his aunt that did the icon.
The big icon,
Yeah.
Sectarius' sister did that.
Sister.
That was the second one she did for us. She did the first one, which is now in St. Martin's, St. Helen, and then when we were coming to St. Helen's Chapel, that was done by his sister again, a new one. And another one done by a Greek was the one of St. Martin on the Horse, which is now in St. Martin's Church. That was done by, he was a master student, his sister, no, his sister, his aunt, in Athens. Now let me think. I can't think about it, get it clear. That was done by, what was his name? Lambros.
Oh, right. In Corinth. In Corinth.
In Corinth. So that's right. So, yes, he was in Corinth. Oh dear, I'm getting all close.
New Corinth. Or
He lived in, yes, in antique Corinth.
antique.
He was very keen that if you said he talked in, he lived in, if you say he lived in
Corinth.
he would
we had
come-
to
yes,
say
antique Corinth. And the family, his family lived there. And his aunt lived in Corinth as well. Sorry, not Athens. Nectarius' sister lived in Athens. Nectarius and his family his parents lived in Corinth, on the edge of Corinth. I think that's right.
Remember David Davis?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Well, David Davis is Kumbaro to Nectarius's child.
Whose?
His Kubaros to Nectarius is what?
Nectarius's little boy.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
he was a godfather, you mean? Okay.
I'd forgotten that. Yes. And then, oh, David came to your wedding, didn't he?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
There's all sorts of links now. It was very nice because who was it you were talking about just now in Corinth?
Lambros.
Lambros. Lambros was at the university and he met his wife at the University of Darien. And Darien,
Just like Michael.
when she first came to England, her bishop had sent a gift, and that's what he sent.
Our
us.
patriarch.
Yes,
Who's now our patriarch.
yes.
Mm.
And you know the story about Lambros coming here. He thought, golly, what am I doing coming to England? This is dreadful. And then he went to the freshest day and saw Father with his hat. And, I'm all right.
Well, it was more than that. It was he came. He flew over from Athens, I suppose Athens, and very, very devout Orthodox, and Saltis, and he flew over, and he said he looked down on England as they were coming in, and thought, "Oh dear, going into this land of the unfaithful, not an Orthodox country, and it's going to be very lonely and all that kind of thing." And then on the first Saturday, the Freshers' Fair, as Hilary says, he came walking in, and he saw me on the podium, whatever, what do you call it up there? The square,
Yeah,
on the square. Came over and couldn't believe his eyes. Yes. Because I think he was here for, might have been three terms, but certainly
He was
2
here
terms.
For his masters. Lambros was here for his masters 1 year.
1 year, that's right, 1 year then.
Just 1
Do you
year
remember
before I
him?
arrived. No, we didn't coincide. I came the year after. So
Oh.
probably we missed each other just.
He did?
Gosh, when he sang, I was weak at the knees.
Beautiful voice, beautiful voice.
Beautiful.
Quite a lot of people know a lot more. And I always saw St Martin's Church, the getting of St Martin's Church, as part of our mission work, that it was telling non-Orthodox about Orthodox people, whether they were Christians or not Christians or whatever. It was standing out as what Orthodoxy is. Lots of people don't know what it is, even people who should. If you say you're Orthodox, I don't know whether you found it, but people often think it means you're a Jew, Jewish Orthodox. So that's one reason why I've used the phrase Greek Orthodox, because when I say Greek Orthodox, they know what I mean, because they've been to Greece holidays and things like this. So it's always been missionary work. And you'll find that if you meet other Antiochians from other parishes, mission has always been a strong point, whereas the Greeks have tended to be, they're not always the same, but the Greeks have tended to be, we're here for the Greeks, and the Russians for the Russians, and also other Slavic peoples are similar. So they're not really interested in others. But you'll find the Antiochians are always interested in bringing other people in.
But I think it helps also that majority of priests are from this land, right?
Yes.
So of course you're interested in your
Yeah.
peoples.
Yes.
And what do you think? I think we've grown quite a lot since COVID, maybe. What do you think was that made that change? Was it really just St. Martin's? Was it COVID or?
Well, first of all, let me put it in a short way. I think it's God's will, God's work, God's blessing. When we were in St. Helens, we had arguments about whether we should have St. Martin's. For several people, some of them still here in the church, thank God. Some of them said, no, we don't want St. Martin's. We want St. Helens. We were fond of St. Helens. And I can think of 2 or 3 who were quite strong about that. One of the things I said always was, if we get St. Martin's, if we can get St. Martin's, we should grow in a way that we're not growing. We were growing, but small. And if we get St. Martin's, we will grow. I said that about when we were at the Co-op Chapel, that we would grow if we came here, that we shouldn't be too much afraid of it. And that happened. And then we grew still more when we came to St. Martin's. And in human terms, a lot of it may be due to COVID, but I really believe it's the grace of God. I said we would grow. That's experience of other places. People grow, churches grow if they've got room to grow. And that's what's happened. Praise God.
And do you have any suggestions or views how we can reach out more to the local people?
Unfortunately, I'm too old now, as you can see. It's got to be for a new generation. It's got to be for you people, and for you people who want there to be an English language. Bits of Greek, bits of Russian, Slavonic, and so on, but basically a Greek language, an English language, Orthodox Church. So what's going to happen in Colchester now is got to be under Father Mark's leadership for now, and it was always my intention that I should be able to help him more. To be so there were 2 priests on the parish here, but I'm afraid I've gone on so long as parish priest and St. Helens and St. Martin's under St. Mark, It's got to be that now. And I'm more of a burden than a help, I'm afraid, now.
I think with you saying about the churches that we've started, I think you really ought to include your son's church
Indeed,
and the amount that Margaret does.
yeah.
Margaret is very well known practically over almost the whole country.
The English, amongst the English language people, I'm
Yeah.
sure she's very well known. Yes.
You know the story of Curia Paula driving over to the monastery. She saw a priest walking down the road, and so she stopped her car and said, "Do you want a lift down?" And he accepted. And where are you from? Colchester. Oh, do you know Margaret Haig? Amazing. Yeah. So yes. And we're beginning to get other crosses, aren't we now, with between the parishes. Alex is coming up to St Martin's for a wedding between one of his congregation, and his bride comes from here.
From Braintree.
So they're coming up in July. So there's the link between
Oh,
those two.
is it July?
parishes.
Yes, July.
Yes,
Yes.
July, mid-July. Yes, and who was it who knew Margaret? Oh, Marion, who phoned yesterday. She'd been to an Orthodox service in Bristol,
Bristol Anglican Cathedral.
and she'd talked to an Orthodox priest there who knew younger Alex and Margaret.
Did you know Margaret?
I can't remember that now. I think there was some link between Margaret and
Knew Margaret, knew Alex.
knew Alex. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
so we're very lucky, really.
Yeah. I think I got everything I need.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Do you mean you don't want to do any more recording?
I think actually we covered everything.
Right.
That
Today.
you're wanting.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I think we're
Lovely.
okay. I mentioned it last time. I don't know if it would be worth also talking to you separately,
Mhm.
although you have been doing some talking now.
Doing some today, yes. Yes.
But I don't know. Yeah, if you have,
If you've got anything you want answered, then
for,
I'm happy.
for me, it's more about storytelling of
Yes.
those
Yeah.
days from your perspective, because we
Yes.
have father's perspective
Yes.
now.
Mhm.
Maybe to get
Well,
your perspective.
Let me pay tribute to my wife and family, because I couldn't have started the parish without them. I'll also include several other people, not of my family, but my family in particular, because I was able to come with musical people, Hilary and Margaret in particular, but even Caroline as well, and Alex to, at that point, a lesser degree. I don't suppose you remember, but when we became Orthodox, Alex was hopeless at music.
Oh, it's not true.
Well, he was pretty hopeless, but he joined in, and gradually he became very capable, and he is now. And he's picked up the odd bit of Greek and so on, and he's very knowledgeable about these things. And so I had the nucleus of parish needs, people who could maintain standards which I couldn't maintain. I couldn't have maintained the music on my own, or other aspects of it. And so
Alex was always more on the serving side than on the musical side, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah. But he gradually learnt to sing.
Well, that happened at junior school.
Yes, he was quite extraordinary. He was
He couldn't sing.
he couldn't
He
sing.
came home from school one day and said, "I'm going to do an opera at school." "Oh, lovely. I've auditioned for a part," and my heart sank. And I said, "Well, if you need any help, just bring it home and I'll..." Anyway, I didn't hear any more, and then the performance came and I thought, "Oh gosh, is it going to be terrible?" Because he had the lead part. He was Theseus in the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. And he was fantastic.
He was amazing, absolutely amazing. I can still. Hilary wasn't there at the occasion, the first occasion anyway, and I can remember I was on the. They had the school hall, and rows, and then the middle there was an aisle where they danced up to the back and danced back again and sang. And he had to sing as Theseus coming up the aisle. And that boy, who was, I suppose, probably 10 at the time, 9 or 10, he who couldn't really sing, we thought, came singing up the aisle in tune and everything else, and he was able to wink at me when he saw me in the middle aisle beside it. He was able to do that, keep cool and act and sing and lead all these people up. It was quite amazing. I see it now.
He'd
And his
been
wink.
quite badly bullied at school because of being a priest's son.
I don't think he had.
And the lad who'd done all the bullying was so amazed to see Alex doing all this that all stopped.
I don't think he was very badly. I don't think.
Well, all right, you don't.
But he certainly became totally acceptable through doing this for the school. He's only about 9 or 10. He was in two things, wasn't he? This was a primary school.
Oh, he was Toad in
Toad Hall. Yes, do you know Toad Hall? Children's story, well known. Your child should know it.
Eventually.
Anyway.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much again.
Well, if you want anything else from me, do ask.
Okay, we'll do.
And it's been a very rewarding time. It's been, on the whole, I mean, there have been problems, occasionally, one sort or another. So often the enemy within was more difficult than the enemy without. But on the whole, things have been gone very well. And my mother had died by then. My father had died many years before. My mother had died, but she knew that it was likely to happen, very likely to happen, that it became Orthodox, and didn't criticise me or anything else like that. Both my sisters were quite helpful on the whole. Both of them, I think, were helpful on the whole, weren't they? It's true to say that. My brother was a bit indifferent on that. I'm not worried about, but I think he's quite pleased in many ways that Orthodox, and he's admired what's gone on here. particularly hearing about St Martin's. He lives at Cambridge, but both my sisters are dead now. They were twins, and so I've been very blessed in having people in the family. Cousins in Scotland who are not Church of England have been a little bit not understanding, but been quite nice and helpful about it. Hilary, on the other hand, has had a bit of difficulty with some of her family. Not openly, but
Has been open. Has been open with my mother and Aunt Helen.
yes, they wouldn't. She didn't understand it, I suppose. Helen, Aunt Helen. Your mother, I don't think, would have understood. We did it after she had died. We all worked out in that way. But Hilary's brother-in-law down in Somerset, close to where we used to live in Bath, he's always been very enthusiastic and helpful, interested in what we were doing, and so that's been very good. He was on our side. And your other
He's
sister,
Roman Catholic, and had a mass said for Father at Christmas time.
when I was ill.
When he was made the archpriest and retired. Yeah. It's nice that happened. Youth, life.